folks who've been doing work in terms of violence against women have successfully used this model in educating providers, in educating professionals, as well as in educating women themselves around recognizing the signs and knowing when there's potential violence either in your life or coming. We haven't done a great job of connecting all of those things until now to HIV. And so that's why it's really important for us to take each one of those with the women and insert the possibility of HIV into each one of those factors. And that's a huge part of that individual level intervention. Other parts of that individual level intervention are about setting goals, about practicing skills, about communication styles. As you know, there's the passive and there's the aggressive and then there's the assertive, you know, sort of like the Goldilocks story, but there's a way to really communicate in such a way that you can protect yourself and still get your needs met and not increase your risk versus some of the other ways to communicate that actually increase vulnerabilities for violence. So you have a second sheet with you, which would also happen, which I think are really, really important pieces. Each woman in her individual level intervention goes through this particular worksheet, which also comes in her toolbox, and they set goals under each one of these categories. And they talk about that with their RISE champion or their intervention counselor, right? And then of these, they pick 3 that are their top priorities, the 3 priorities or the 3 goals that really touch them the most, and then they map out a plan for that. And when they map out a plan for each of those goals, right, within that plan, they also have to start mapping out a sexual safety plan. So they might say that, you know, if one of the goals was about education and they decide that they're going to get their high school equivalency because they don't have one, and that's going to actually step them further down the road to being more self-sufficient economically if they're able to get better jobs. So if that's a part of it, then they might have a sexual safety goal, which is, and when I have to get, you know, my next physical, I'm going to ask for an HIV test. Or sexual safety goal might be, and I'm going to go to a clinic. It doesn't even have to be about HIV, so to speak. A sexual safety goal in that might be, you know, I'm going back to school and my partner doesn't want me to go, so I'm going to have to get out of that relationship because he's doing certain things to me to prevent me from going to school. So whatever is connected to their particular goal, to have a sexual safety goal really helps reinforce that if you're not protecting yourself, and this isn't to depress people, but it really is to motivate, that if you're not protecting yourself, then you're less likely to achieve that goal that means so much to you. Does that make sense? So it's still about reinforcing the woman's own self-concept and her own ability to set her goals and then connect that to the behaviors that she needs to engage in to make those goals happen. Does that make sense?
Do you focus on a certain age group? Or this certain age group?
18 to 65. How about that? Yeah. For this particular intervention, but some parts of the intervention are also accessible to younger women as well. The Healthy Love Party is for all age groups, and it can be modified, all age groups and all sites and places. A couple of things I'll tell you about the Healthy Love Party, which are also unique for us, is that we focus on intact groups, right? So we don't hold sessions like this and invite anybody to come and be trained in a Healthy Love Party. It's going to be, you know, if you live on a campus, the women on your floor, not even in your dorm. It's going to be the people that you shower with, interact with, talk with, eat with, you know, that the conversations amongst you will probably continue on, that you will continue to reinforce what you learn in the Healthy Love Party because you were there together. So we focus on intact groups, whether they're church groups, co-workers, civic society groups, sororities, wherever we've worked with affinity groups of immigrant women. You know, there's the local group of Rwandan women or the local group of Gambian women that we will focus on because they're connecting with each other on a constant basis. The other part that I think is unique is that we'll do it in house calls. So wherever you are is where we'll bring the Healthy Love Party. And you know, everybody knows Tupperware, right? Or Avon, or what's the other one? Amway. You know, where you invite people into your home and then you get the salesperson to come in and do the whole dog and pony show. Well, our Healthy Love Parties could be called Rubberware. Anyway, But the point in that is that we are able to modify that particular group level intervention to the group that we're working with, regardless of age or location. And the only place that becomes a real challenge is either in churches or mosques or in incarcerated settings, because you're limited often by the institution to what you can actually provide for the people. So I wanted to make sure I got that goals piece in. And I want to make sure I've got the conversation, and then I want to just open it up to discussion, but I want to make sure I've covered all the pieces that I wanted to cover. I can walk you through one more piece of the overall kit that's provided. So for a participant, she would receive her participant workbook, and that's walked through in about a 1-hour session with the RISE champion, but she takes it home to do her homework. She gets cue cards, and I like the way we lay these out because these are actually all about HIV testing, but they're cue cards at different stages. So learning about what the test is. If that's all you want to know, then that's all you need to read. You don't have to read all the other scary stuff, right? Or if you want to know about the type of test that you can get, then there it explains the blood test versus the OraSure saliva type test. What happens if your test is negative? So you can get a hold of what that is. What does your test mean? What does HIV antibody mean? What is it actually telling you? It's not AIDS. You know, making sure that just if that's all you want to know is what does that test mean if I get my result? What does it mean if it's not determinate? Because we now have indeterminate tests. We have a lot of folks who get false positives, especially out of the rapid tests, right? They tend to have more false positives. But then, you know, there's always confirmatories and it takes longer. And then what happens if you're positive? And then it drives you back to the book and to the referral sources that are provided as well. There's pre-assessments, there's basic anatomy. You know, when we're starting to talk about what you're protecting in these body parts, what do you know and what don't you know? And to make sure that women themselves are even familiar with their own bodies, because I don't know about y'all, but we come across a lot of women who have never even seen their vaginas, much less know what the parts are. And that becomes critical when talking about transmission, when talking about stages of risk, when talking about why and how condoms work, how the male condoms versus the female condoms work. Even when we're doing education, because we also do a lot of clinical research education around microbicides and some of the new prevention prophylactic types of trials that are coming out, that all have relevance to women being more informed and literate about their own bodies, but also about all of these different components to prevention research that they're lining up to be engaged in, but don't have a clue as to what it really means. What the researchers know, we want the women to know themselves. And there's also another component around how you would talk to your doctor, and what kinds of questions you would ask, and how you ask for an HIV test, how you demand it, how you might engage once you feel like you're in a safe situation, how might you engage with a provider about your current condition with violence or with substance use or even with HIV. So how to communicate with your provider is also an important part of this toolkit. Then, because they have all that goal setting to do, our Office of Women's Health provides this wonderful annual women's health calendar that also points out a lot of the body stuff. It talks about serious conditions and preventive issues that affect women, but it also allows women to chart out their own goals, and they love those. We have local resource books. We call ours key contacts, but whatever resource books are available in a given community, we encourage the RISE intervention coordinators, if they don't have one, to put one together and make that available inside that toolkit. The other organization, and then I'll close, the other organization that created the DISC and actually implements the individual level interventions is called Messages of Empowerment. And that's the website. It's messagesofempowerment.com, and that's where you can get more information about the toolkits. They don't just distribute the toolkits because they come along with trainings, which are being set up now in a lot of different cities. So just if you see RISE intervention, because I don't know what the upcoming calendar is. If you see Rise Intervention, then that's what that's about. But you could get the DVD, you could probably get the certain parts or components for information's sake, the assessment forms, the workbook, at messagesofempowerment.com. Don't do that. Questions, conversation? So tell me what you think about this intervention overall. Does it sound like something that you've seen before? Is it familiar? Does it sound like something that, if we had a male component, that there's a way to engage that or involve that?